Tonight, we're following the second major contest in the presidential primary. Steve Spriester will join us to talk about the first round of results in the new Fairfax KSAT Revar Report poll. And a new installment in our consumer series, Money, It's Personal. We're talking about the home buying process, specifically how to compare loan offers. But first, we get right to a look at the latest results from New Hampshire, where voters cast their ballots in the first ever presidential primary for 2020. What we know right now, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has a small lead over former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar. Meanwhile, two Democratic candidates have suspended their 2020 campaigns. Colorado Senator Michael Bennet and businessman Andrew Yang are out of the race. But here at home tonight, we are paying attention to a different set of numbers we've been diving into all day long here on KSAT. Last week, we announced the first of its kind, nonpartisan, quarterly Fairfax KSAT Revar Report poll. Today, we're announcing the first round of the results. That's why Steve Spriester is here tonight to talk about the biggest takeaways from this poll.
Yeah, and I think overall, when you talk to the pollster, Dave Metz, and you look through some of the numbers, it is a pretty positive report card for San Antonio and for Bexar County. It doesn't mean that people don't have issues that they think the city and the county need to be tackling. But when you look at the leadership and even, some of the public utilities that service us in San Antonio and Bexar County, they generally get pretty high marks by the 651 people that we surveyed in this poll.
Before we dive into all of those numbers, can we just talk about for a second this project itself?
Yes.
Why is this a first of its kind, and why is this something that really was needed in San Antonio?
Well, we're talking about a partnership between Fairfax, a nonprofit organization, KSAT 12, and the Revar Report, which lives online. And basically what we're doing is going out in the community and asking likely voters, 650, in this case 651 likely voters, what they think of the most important issues. And there's nobody that's been doing that publicly in at least 20 years or so. So the fact that we are out there asking if the issues that they're talking about in City Hall and that they're talking about at the courthouse are actually issues that people care about, I think is an important step. And what we hope is that people will become maybe more engaged with their local government, and they will certainly know that their voices are being heard through this process and through this poll.
That's what I think is so unique. This is entirely local.
Yeah.
So let's get right to some of these numbers. Let's first start with approval ratings for the top elected leaders for both Bexar County and the mayor. You've got Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff there and San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg.
Yeah, 54%. Total favorability for Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff, 53% for San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg. I am a little surprised that the mayor's numbers were as strong as they were, especially coming off a bruising campaign against Greg Brockhouse not that long ago. But if you're Ron Nirenberg right now, I think you're pretty happy with these numbers.
So we also talked about some of the ways in which the governments that these two gentlemen lead are using sales tax dollars. We'll dive into that in just a second. First, I want to get into, you also see Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar. That's another elected official that I wanted to point to.
Yeah, and if you look closely at these numbers, the thing I would point out about Nirenberg and Wolff, you see them towards the middle of the screen there. Mm-hmm. The total disapproval for the mayor, 56% approve, 30% disapprove. That is much higher than Judge Nelson Wolff, who is 55%, so they're basically statistically tied, but only 17 total disapproval rating. So if there's a downside to what we see in the mayor's numbers, that is it. But then you go up the scale, right above the mayor is Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar, who's going to face, who's facing not only a Democratic challengers coming up here in March, but will be facing a Republican when we get to November, and he is almost 60% approval right now.
Let's go back to that graphic if we can, because I want to touch on some of the ways that San Antonians, people living in Bexar County, feel about some of the biggest organizations that run this city. CPS Energy, VIA, SAWS, they all had positive approval ratings. And I don't know about you, Steve, but I was kind of surprised to see CPS Energy and SAWS, two utilities have such high approval ratings from people.
Especially when you're talking about solids, you're talking about an organization that has raised water rates here over the last few years, and they're still at 62%. I was a little more surprised that VIA was above the San Antonio water system, and very surprised that of all those organizations and people that were just rated, CPS Energy was number one on that list.
Now, they haven't had a rate increase for several years,
True.
but one is coming.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that may potentially shake things up. We also talked about something else I mentioned earlier, how people want to see their sales tax dollars used. 3 different topics these people were asked about who participated in this poll. Explain some of those.
Well, these are the 3 big issues that we're talking about right now. Extending the existing 1/8 cent sales tax to protect San Antonio's primary water source, the Edwards Aquifer. Very popular, 80%. Pollster Dave Metz, when I talked to him, said this is the most bipartisan issue that you see out there. Republicans, independents, Democrats all agree, the majority, 80%, we need to protect our aquifer. Next, you have the 1/8 cent sales tax to fund pre-K for SA at 68%, which is also strong support. And then even allocating the sales tax to VIA Metro Transit to increase the frequency of buses and make public transportation more reliable, also 64%. But when you have to make a choice, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting, and I think we see that in the next graphic. We ask people to choose one of those 3, which in all reality they're not going to have to do on a ballot, but what do they think is the number 1 priority of those 3 things that are being widely discussed right now by the mayor and the city council and people like SAWS and VIA and even some of the pre-K for SA people. And there you see the aquifer at 42%, pre-K for SA at 30%, VIA and public transportation 7%.
You mentioned earlier how the mayor might be feeling about these poll numbers. Seeing that result, I think, is something that has to be making an impression at City Hall as well, because he is the one who has floated this idea of let's take the money that has been set aside to protect the Edwards Aquifer, shift that to VIA, and then we will go to SAWS potentially for the Edwards Aquifer protection.
Yeah, and our reporter Garrett Berger actually talked to the mayor today, and the mayor said he's not surprised aquifer protection is that high. And that it needs to be taken care of. It has been a priority, and pre-K for SA as well. But I think, he didn't come out and say this, but I think they kind of see this as a mixed bag, because VIA overall does well in the impression of VIA.
It's just when asked which one of those
which isn't going to be on a ballot.
Right.
And so I think if you're the mayor right now, what you're hoping to do, take care of the aquifer issue. So it's not on the ballot, so it's not tied to public transportation and pre-K. You want to somehow try and solve those 3 blocks here, those 3 puzzles, solve those, or solve 2 of the 3 so the third one can take the cent sales tax if it's public transportation.
And that's what the mayor has been talking to SAWS about, potentially working that out. There was some open-ended questions involved in this poll, so it wasn't all just multiple choice, pick one of these. We had some people who said, this is how I feel about some of the biggest concerns in San Antonio that I want local government to do something about.
Yeah, and when we say open-ended, this is really a question where they say, you tell us what is the most important issue. What are your concerns that you hope local government will take care of? And here you see crime, theft, burglaries, law enforcement, more police needed at 19%, but then closely behind, really almost a statistical tie, homelessness at 18%. Then you have tied traffic and congestion, cost of living, poverty, low income, and infrastructure, roads, streets at 10%. Obviously, I did the deep dive into homelessness in October with the KSAT in the shadows. It's on KSAT.com right now. I thought it was of concern to the average San Antonian, and so there's part of me that's heartened to see that it is something that people see as a major concern. But there are so many issues that are tied up with homelessness, and one of them is affordable housing.
Yes.
And it did not rank high in the poll. People think San Antonio's, by and large, an affordable city. So that wasn't necessarily linked, but you did see poverty in the 10%.
And cost of living.
And cost of living in
that
there.
as well. Yeah.
So that I think also fits into kind of when we're talking about the homelessness situation and exactly what's happening. But when you talk about homeless, you talk about those things. You also talk about mental health care, and you talk about addiction program,
education,
all of these things that fit under the homeless umbrella. Yeah.
Now you talked about doing a deep dive on this earlier today online. You had a live stream where you talked to some people who really have insight into a lot of these issues, getting their reactions about how they're responding to these poll numbers. But we had some people essentially in an audience with us today too.
Yeah, and so we talked to the three members, I call them the Bear Facts Brain Trust, that are kind of behind us. But in the audience were also local policymakers, local business owners, local consultants. And I talked to them after the poll was revealed and after we did that live stream, kind of about what they thought about the whole thing. So let's listen in.
To me, research here is a great planning tool.
Well, I think it's very important to have a sense of how your community feels, especially on geographic diversity, understanding how people feel on one side of town versus another.
It's a great benchmark for the San Antonio community to see what the issues of concern are to all of us, but also for our elected officials to see what the things are that they're pushing that may not be as much of a concern to our citizenry.
It was interesting to see how low, let's say, the climate issue polled as opposed to all the other issues that were on the board. And it was one of the open polls, but it's just interesting to see how, city council and the mayor have been pushing that so hard when the majority of, our population really doesn't feel like it's maybe as important or something to focus on.
And what I liked about each of those three is you had three longtime residents of San Antonio who are, very familiar with this community. Mm-hmm. And then the last person that we talked to is a newcomer. And so she really was interested in what was happening with this Bear Facts poll to kind of give it an idea of what is important to San Antonio.
And there's a breakdown in some of the results of exactly who was polled,
yes,
how this poll was conducted, and this is not the only round of results, the only poll that we're going to be doing as part of this project.
Right. What we saw today is basically the baseline. So we will take a lot of the same questions that you saw in today's poll, and we will ask them 3 more times. And we'll see what happens with the approval ratings for the mayor and the county judge and the sheriff. We'll see what happens with some of these issues and what people think are the most important issues. And we can also, once we get closer to some, ballot language, whether it comes to that 8-cent sales tax, how it's used, things like that, we can start pulling some of those things as well. So every quarter, so 4 times this year, we will be releasing new Bear Facts poll results.
Okay, so it will be interesting to see if these things do change over time.
It will be interesting, yeah.
How San Antonio feels. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Myra.
To see a full list of all the results from this poll, just head to KSAT.com, click on this story. You can also find the full results and the live stream that Steve did. That's on our website as well. That happened this afternoon. Really, the deep dive he was talking about. You could also find the results of the poll on bearfacts.org.
Good evening, I'm meteorologist Sarah Spivey with a look ahead at what will actually be a pretty damp Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. In fact, we could have some really good drought-denting rain later on tonight with up to 1.5 inches of rain in some places. Today, the weather was a little bit strange. It was gray, it was dreary, it was damp. We actually had our high temperature right after midnight of only 51 degrees. And since then, temperatures have fallen into the 40s, mid-40s around San Antonio at the moment. And again, that's about 10 to 15 degrees cooler than what we were at this time yesterday, all because of the front that moved through and kept those clouds around. Not much sun was able to get through, and we really had a lot of drizzle throughout the day, really only amounting to about 1/100 of an inch of rain at the airport. Taking a look at satellite and radar, you can see the DFW area is getting the bulk of the rainfall right now, but our rain chances are currently sitting over El Paso, Tucson, Arizona. That's where that upper level low pressure is. That's going to bring us the inner energy we need to squeeze out the moisture in the air in the form of rainfall. And we'll be getting that rain again anytime from about midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when we'll see these showers move on through, maybe even a few rumbles of thunder as well. But if you're worried about severe weather, don't be. Again, just a few flashes of lightning possible, and even flooding is not going to be an issue because we've been so dry. It would take 3 inches of rainfall in an hour to make us flood. We're not going to get that. Again, at most about 1.5 inches in some places. And then by Wednesday, right around the morning commute, will start to clear out. And by Wednesday around lunch hour tomorrow, we should be looking good, actually seeing some sunshine for the rest of the afternoon. Let's take a look at maximum rainfall potential. Anywhere you see these blues, that's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches possible of rainfall. That's maximum rainfall potential. Most people will probably get 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rainfall. And then if you're further west, don't expect more than 1/2 inch of rain. So setting your schedule for tomorrow, just know that if you're heading out for the morning commute between about 6 to 8 o'clock, there will still be some areas of lingering showers and plenty of ponding on the roadways too. So if you're somebody who likes to plan, just make sure to give yourself an extra about 20 minutes to get to work tomorrow morning or school. Then we'll be clearing around lunch, and then look at that. Temperatures are going to warm up nicely, 65 and sunny, northwest breeze at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Now, as we head into Thursday and Friday, know that Thursday and Friday morning it should be nice and cold in the 30s, close to freezing on Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine, but we're not going to warm up too much. Really only a high near 60 degrees. That includes Valentine's Day. It'll be a little chilly on Valentine's Day. Good snuggle weather. Then over the weekend we'll have mostly cloudy skies. A chance for rain though on President's Day, but really only about a 20% chance. And as for our next front, looks like it'll be arriving some point on Tuesday.
Thanks, Sarah. New tonight, a man arrested and accused of killing 2 people in 2 different places in South Bexar County this morning. A passenger from China tried to bring a box of dead birds into the U.S. U.S. officials have now gotten rid of it. And a great white shark named in honor of Kobe Bryant. Here's tonight's 9 at 9.
2 murders less than 24 hours apart. The most recent likely the result of family violence. A woman dead, a man in custody, and a daughter in her 20s left devastated.
This happened in South Bexar County on Mogford.
A second murder investigation underway after a child around the age of 6 discovered a 37-year-old family member dead in his backyard.
The victim was found in the backyard at a home on Sandy Circle near Post Oak View. A college dean is among 14 people arrested for child pornography and human trafficking in South Georgia. Valdosta State University confirms Keith Walters has been put on administrative leave following the arrest. He's the dean of the school's College of Science and Mathematics.
I don't care where they come from, as long as we get them in jail, get them away from my children.
In Honduras, the National Police General Commissioner arrested today. He's accused of money laundering. Police seized 33 assets and 13 bank accounts belonging to Leonel Sauceda, who could not justify having a sum of money of about $568,000, according to investigators. His wife was also arrested. A box of dead birds that a traveler from China tried to bring into the U.S. has been incinerated. The birds were discovered in the passenger's luggage at Washington Dulles International Airport last month. Bird imports from China are prohibited because of potential exposure to avian influenza. Tens of thousands of Iranians filled the streets of Tehran today to mark the 41st anniversary of Iran's Islamic Revolution. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani addressed the celebratory crowd. He condemned U.S. economic sanctions against his country and called the U.S. attack that killed General Qasem Soleimani a criminal act. The late basketball legend Kobe Bryant was apparently fascinated by sharks. He even dove with them. Now a great white is named after him. According to the Marine Conservation Science Institute, the shark was spotted in the Pacific Ocean near Guadalupe Island, Mexico. Number 24 is a 12-foot-long young adult shark. 24 is one of the numbers Bryant wore with the Los Angeles Lakers. In honor of Black History Month, Maryland has unveiled statues of 2 of its most iconic residents, Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. They're now installed in the old House of Delegates chamber in Maryland State House. The state governor says these influential leaders are now permanently enshrined in the state's history.
That it will help remind each of us to always stand on the side of goodness and love.
Take a look at this. The skies over Colorado lit up by what's officially the largest firework ever launched. The 2,800-pound explosive was fired at over 300 miles an hour. It flew more than a mile into the sky before erupting. To read more about these 9 stories, go to KSAT.com. You're watching KSAT News at 9 tonight. We'll be back in just 1 minute. Listen to this statistic. 10% of overdose deaths happen to people within a month after they're released from jail. It's one of the reasons why the Bexar County Opioid Task Force is using grant money to help those people trying to transition out of jail.
We're going to be starting a pilot program in the jail, of which we've got a grant for that will help in that transition when someone comes in that has a drug problem, not only help in the jail, but help in once they come back into real life.
The new medication-assisted treatment pilot program will serve people struggling with opioid addiction. It will start when someone is booked and continues through their incarceration until they're released. Case managers will facilitate the treatment, which is 2 shots of Vivitrol. That's a medication that blocks the effects of opioids. The task force anticipates the program will serve about 100 people. Turning now to tonight's top stories, actor Jussie Smollett will face charges over the hate crime attack that Chicago police say he made up. A grand jury has indicted Smollett on 6 counts. They accuse Smollett of making false police reports after the purported attack a little over a year ago. Smollett claimed he was attacked by 2 men because he is black and openly gay. But police say he staged the entire incident to gain publicity, which Smollett still denies. All 4 federal prosecutors assigned to Roger Stone's case quit ahead of his sentencing next week. The resignations come just hours after the Justice Department revealed it will significantly reduce Stone's sentencing recommendations. Stone was convicted last year on 7 charges, including lying to Congress and witness tampering. Prosecutors recommended that he be sentenced to 7 to 9 years in prison, but the DOJ announced plans to reduce the recommendations hours after President Donald Trump criticized them. Stone is a longtime friend and confidant of the president. To celebrate its 20th anniversary, JetBlue is having a sale. The airline is offering one-way flights for $20. The 2-day sale, which ends at 10:59 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night, requires travelers to depart on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. The sale also includes blackout dates, and travel must be completed by June 17th. She shopped around for houses, explored her loan, and now our home buyer Amy is ready to compare her loan offers. We've been following Amy for a few weeks now. Digital journalist Ivan Herrera brings us the 3rd installment of our Home Buying Money It's Personal series.
Remember our friend Amy, who was exploring loan choices to buy her first home? Well, she's back this week to compare her mortgage loan offers to move forward in the home buying process. Lucky for her, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has a guide to help her find what to look for when comparing home loan offers and negotiating them. First, Amy should request loan estimates from the multiple lenders she's considering. The estimate is a simple way to see which lender is offering you the best deal. Amy will need the following key pieces of information to begin her loan application process: her name income, social security number, the address of the home, and the loan amount she needs. The CFPB says home buyers should ask each lender for the same kind of loan with the same features. At this point, Amy already has a good idea of what kind of loan and features she's looking for. She knows her loan type, interest type, loan term, down payment and loan amounts, lender credits, and rate lock period. Amy's next step is to review her loan estimates to choose the right loan that works for her. She needs to read each estimate carefully and check to see if her interest rate is locked. If it is not locked, her rate can change at any time. Now, it's time for Amy to compare the details of her loan estimates and how they stack up against one another. The CFPB reminds home buyers that loan estimates are offers, and they aren't set in stone. If Amy's offers don't fit her needs or are different than what she asked for, she could go back to her preferred lenders and ask for different options. If Amy feels most comfortable with a certain lender, but another has a better offer, she can go back with the preferred company and try to negotiate her estimate. Once Amy has compared her loan offers, she can now make her choice and notify the lender. The CFPB says it's a good idea to run through the key terms with the loan officer to confirm everything is in order before moving forward with the loan. Amy's next step is to submit her documentation to process her application with the lender. Next week, I'll tell you about Amy's closing process. For The 9, Ivan Herrera.
We know that was a lot of information, so we're putting all of that info on our website. Just visit ksat.com/news@9. And next week, we'll bring you the 4th installment in our Money It's Personal home buying series, where you'll get to learn about the closing process. Time to find out what is trending on KSAT.com today with RJ Marcus.
All right, Myra. First of all, let's start here with a story about Texas. Bigger and better, right?
That's how we do it.
That's how we do it. And this, what we're talking about here, is this new water park resort. It's called America's largest indoor water park. Slated to open this year up in Round Rock.
Indoor
water park. Indoor water park. So they released a couple of renderings that show exactly what the water park's going to have. They're going to have this like indoor wave pool, all sorts of like cool things for the kids and the family. Okay. And my question is, how many of these are we going to get? Like, it seems like we just keep getting here, right? Bigger and bigger. Yes.
I guess they all got to outdo each other.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you look at this and it's kind of a like an African type theme.
It's cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's called the Kalahari Resorts, and again, it's going to be open up in Round Rock later this year. So pretty interesting stuff.
All right.
Moving on to the next story here. Today is National Peppermint Patty Day. Yes. Okay, so I was actually surprised at how many people were kind of clicking on this and interested in this story, because I was like, what's the big deal? So apparently there's a huge divide over the peppermint patty candy.
The peppermint patty candy, or are we talking about the mint chocolate combo itself?
The mint, this one right here, the York.
How deep are we going to dive?
Yes.
The York peppermint patty itself.
The York one, yeah. So it's been around since like the early 1900s, which is interesting. It's also from Pennsylvania. I did a lot of research on this today. It's not from New York. Yes. But we asked this question on Facebook earlier, whether people just love it or they hate it, and it caused this huge rift amongst our Facebook followers.
Oh, so where do people stand?
Right down the middle. They are right down the middle on this. Some people saying they love it. Others saying get rid of it, they hate it. Earlier today in the newsroom, Ferris Sabawi, as you've seen him many times on this segment, he said he hated it. And another person in the newsroom said, hey, back off, buddy. I remember when they were 5 cents. So I'm not going to give that person's name.
Oh, I know exactly who said that.
I remember when they were 5 cents. Last story here of our trending segment. The best burger in Texas, here in San Antonio.
The best one in the whole state.
The best. The best. I was surprised to hear this, but this is according to Yelp, and this is also a publication called Eat This, Not That. So they gave this place here, Papa's Burgers, El Caliente Burger, the top nod here.
Okay.
Yes.
I have to say, I am not familiar with this restaurant.
Yeah, me neither, but it's apparently the best. This is this place located out there by Highway 90.
Okay.
So yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because you see so many like burger debates, especially in the city. I think we have like a burger map, right, on our website. Yes. And I don't remember Papa's being on there, but maybe we need to add it.
We need to add it, and you and I need to go.
Yeah, field trip out to Papa's Burgers. So pretty cool stuff here. El Caliente Burger, and again, I had not heard of this place before, but yeah, it's getting a lot of praise here on our website today.
Okay, I will say I saw this article, and while I have not had the El Caliente, now I just want a burger.
Yeah, Papa's Burgers and peppermint patty. There you go. You're good to go for the day. So that
or
is,
not. It's okay if you
true.
don't like them.
So that is what is trending on our website today.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
RJ.
Mary.
We'll be right back. That is all our time here on KSAT News at 9. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Myra Arthur. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good one.